Hey, David, how are you?
So, Dana, what's on the docket today? Rob Lowe. Robbie Lowe.
Rob Herbert Walker Lowe.
Rob
Rob
Jim.
Lowe is so interested in everything. And his career, I think he's our manager's favorite because he's no one works like Rob Lowe. I can't even keep track. And he does have a show now. Stories I only tell him. He's got a one-man show. He's like a stand-up. He's on our turf.
Yeah, it was just in Palm Springs. He's the hardest working man in show business. He's the new one because he does everything. He's like, I have 3 podcasts, I have 3 TV shows, and I'm going to be on Top Chef. You're like, oh my God.
I know. And he's going to have a baking show, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's making a bouillabaisse as we speak.
But, he's got a strong chin, which is sort of enviable.
Good hair.
Strong chin, good hair. Because to me, when you get older, unless you have that, kind of like Mitt Romney look, like Superman's dad look with the big chin, the short neck, you have 2 choices. You can either be a pirate or a cowboy. You can either be Steven Tyler or Jeff Bridges. But you got to be either a pirate or a cowboy unless you have a strong chin.
Yeah.
Because I did a movie with Burt Lancaster once, and he goes, how can you be a movie star? You don't have any chin.
It's kind of true.
That's true.
Yeah. I don't have shit, dude.
I'm going for a little scruff after seeing you make your headway with it.
We're turning into the same person.
I know. I copied your haircut,
it's all
and now we're
ridiculous.
doing this pod.
Well, it's funny because, Rob, when he did Tommy Boy, we had one of the big fights on Tommy Boy, which wasn't with Rob. It was about Rob.
Really?
Because Farley, we flew in after SNL. We had to go back and forth. It wasn't like the new days where you can skip shit. We were back and forth and back and forth to Toronto. And then one time Farley wasn't feeling good on the plane. And when we landed, he goes, all right, well, we got to get up at 5. So I said, all right. And so I landed, and then Robbie Lowe was there, and I go, oh, you want to grab a beer or something? He goes, should we call Farles? I go, no, he's not feeling good. So the next day we sat in makeup. And he was and Farley was glaring at me in the mirror, he bank shot, I'm sitting next to him.
The bank shot.
And he's just licking his lips, which I know is trouble.
Yeah.
And he goes, how's Rob Lowe? How's Rob Lowe? And I go, are you saying how's Rob Lowe? I don't know. He's all right.
Because you had dinner with him. He wasn't there?
Not even dinner. One Amstel Light. And he goes, you're out with fucking Rob Lowe. You don't call me? I go, are you out of your mind? I go, you were sick. Remember you were fake sick? You went to bed. He goes, you still fucking ask.
I would not want Chris Farley to be mad at me.
I know. And that's we got in the great tuna stepping fight when he stepped on my hand.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah. It was all hilarious.
Yeah, you guys should, physically, that's
But Rob's
not a
good
match.
looks are like kryptonite, and they weakened us, and then we all wanted to hang out with him.
Well, Rob told me once, because when he came on SNL the first time, the church lady, he was going to come on Church Lady. Mm-hmm. And he told me once, he said that right before we go to, because I had to kind of lock into the character who's really mean. He looked at me and goes, I thought you were going to kill me. I was like, because the look in my eyes, right before we start the sketch, goes, this guy's going to murder me.
He did it a couple times. He said he really was really happy with it.
He loves it. He's done 3 hosting jobs. And anyway.
He's also the busboy at Garcia's on weekends.
He's chatty. He's fun to talk to.
Yeah.
And he will just go anywhere you want to go.
And he is fun. He's
books,
very entertaining. He knows what he's doing.
Writes books.
Yeah.
Looks at the newspaper, if anyone does anymore.
Takes his shirt off even when no one's looking. Just because he looks good.
No one knows what,
I'm fighting to keep mine on at all times.
I'm cut.
I have girls go, if we have sex, there's no way you can keep all your clothes on. I was like, I mean, we can try.
Well, the problem is when you get older, if you get to a weight where you're cut, then you get more wrinkly upstairs, and it's called a raisin head. It's an actual thing.
Sickening.
Like if you think of Clint Eastwood, like 20 years ago, he was kind of built up, but he was a raisin head. So you know, like if you're kind of chubby or fat, then you just don't, you have no wrinkles. Right. It's a trade-off. But if you want to have a 28-inch waist at 70, you're going to be a raisin head.
I don't want to be a raisin head. All right, here comes a non-raisin head.
Here comes a non-raisin head.
Robbie Lowe.
The definition of aging well, Mr. Robert Lowe. So Rob Lowe, so you're in pretty good shape. So do you ever think to yourself, like if you're out with your wife or whatever, somebody's making some noise, maybe you might have to physically fight a guy, an adult human?
It's so weird you asked me this on the way into the studio just now.
No.
I'm not kidding. There was some guy kind of creeping in the parking garage, and I was like, I might have to fuck this guy up. And then I started doing this whole thing about like, could I do it? Would I do it? Should I? I had a whole drama play out in my head not 5 minutes ago.
Jesus. Well, you're saying in Los Angeles, in a parking garage, there was a freak roaming around?
Yeah,
that's unheard of.
No, it's unheard of, isn't it? In one of our big cities, that there might be somebody up to no good, maybe
looking to sakes. I mean, I love The Walking Dead. I didn't think I'd be in it on a daily basis in West Hollywood. These guys coming out of alcoves with their all going like this.
It's
I mean,
like
I'm
World
all sorry
War
for
Z
the
at
homeless.
the Grove.
It's like
Jesus Christ.
Like outside the Polo Lounge, it looks like something from The Purge.
This guy's doing a smash and grab in my Chevy Monza.
I'm trying to buy a head of lettuce at Gelson's. I got the mummy behind me coming in with the claws out, you know? Jesus Christ, I'll do Dennis all day.
These girls walking with their knees walking backwards. I'm like, where the fuck am I?
So anyway, you're very physically fit is what I was saying.
No, let me, Dana, I have a question for Rob.
Okay, good, go.
This this is just a good random question that relates to what you're saying, sort of. Have you ever been punched in the face? When was the last time you got punched in the face?
I was kicked in the face.
Whoa.
Kicked in the face with a steel-toed boot.
That counts more, I think.
By Matthew Modine.
That fucker, let's get him.
Matthew Modine, I always knew that guy was a prick.
I knew he hated your guts.
Yeah, no, I know. The people get competitive that are host of SNL.
Like,
I guess for the rest of their
Hallmark movie. No, what happened?
For the rest of your career, it's like, who's got the best episode? But you hosted 3 times. But I was reading your book last night, and you punched Tom Cruise in the face.
I punched Cruise in the face. But he practically knocked me out.
Of course.
Why do I love that?
It's because Matthew Modine kicked me in the face in a stunt gone wrong on a movie called Hotel New Hampshire. Broke my nose. The director was so mad at him. The director didn't like him much anyway, but the director was so mad at him that he revoiced Matthew's character with another actor.
What revenge?
What? That's revenge.
Yeah.
I found him very affable when he hosted the show.
Don't you defend him.
He is the nicest person in the world.
That's what I was going to say.
I don't understand why the director had a thing for him, but he did, and he's the nicest man.
Have you ever done a movie, Rob, where like halfway through the movie, you realize that you weren't the director's first choice and that he or she actually resented you?
Well, worse. I had a lunch meeting. Worse,
I
had a lunch meeting where I realized halfway through the lunch meeting that they thought I was somebody else.
Whoa!
So I was.
Who did they think you were?
They thought I was Matt Dillon.
Matt Dillon. Oh, funny.
And it was a meeting with Danny DeVito. And I'm sitting there. I walk in.
They thought Dana was Danny DeVito.
I walk in and I see Danny DeVito, and he gets all excited and waves me over to the table. I mean, I'm not there to see Danny DeVito. I'm there for my own other thing. But he's all excited, and I've never really met him. And he's pointing at the table, going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah!" And he's all excited. And we sit down, and he starts going in about this movie and this project and things. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. What an unexpected gift. But then over Danny's shoulder, I can see the street, and I see walking down the street over Danny's shoulder, here comes Matt Dillon. And I realize, he thinks I'm Matt Dillon.
Oh, wow.
And then, so I'm waiting for this awkward moment, which of course happens, where Matt comes and goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" or whatever. And Danny has to like, get out
Matt
of it.
Damon. That's a bookmark impression. Matt Dillon. Oh, sorry.
God damn it. Go ahead, Rob.
They thought I was Val Kilmer. I was testing for Amadeus. And he kept calling me Val. And then when I walked out, Val Kilmer walked in. I did test for Amadeus because at 26, I could play 18. So I'd go in the room. I'd see Eric Stoltz. I read for Risky Business.
Shut up.
Wait. You tested for Amadeus?
Yes, I did with Mr. Milos Forman.
The thing about Milos is he's Czechoslovakian, and it informs everything he does.
It informs everything he does?
Yeah,
it's the thing about, it's that thing of like, you're Czechoslovakian, but you don't really want to be.
The thing about the Czechs is they grew up breaking rules.
It's these random. My favorite
It's so
recent
awesome.
Lorne thing that I don't know if you guys have heard this one, but he comes up with these things. You don't know where they come from, but it's so specific you have to listen. So we're talking about funny people in the world and this career path we've chosen and stuff. And he said, regards funny people, he goes, there's only 900 of us on the planet. And it was kind of seemed like kind of the right number in a
fair
way.
number,
Like,
He's
priceless.
I wanted to do, I've talked about it before, I wanted to do a coffee table book or at least a Twitter of Lorneisms.
Mm-hmm.
That would
And
probably
I tried to get Amy Poehler to do it, and she was so down. I mean, she's like, he'll find out it's us. And I was like, who cares?
I think Lorne
I
likes
think he
it.
doesn't
Well,
care, yeah.
Rob and Dave, what's your favorite Lorneism?
Oh,
Because I have a couple that are very eccentric.
I
Go ahead.
have.
Do you have a yeah?
Okay, I'll go first. Would you like to go for a walk? And so I remember telling Lovitz I was going to go on a walk with Lorne. He's like, have a good listen.
Yep, I remember that one.
And so it's this long walk through the woods in Amagansett, and it's quiet, and we're just walking and walking. And Lorne goes, there's nothing more violent than a tree. And I said, what? He goes, that amber is trying to kill that pine.
What?
Was this out in Amagansett?
Yes, there's nothing more violent than a tree.
What are the fucking trees like out there?
Yeah.
See,
I've never been there.
That's the name of the coffee table book. Nothing more violent than a tree. I mean,
It's like Game of Thrones out in that
it's
forest.
poetic.
It's a theme, I guess, because the other thing was, I remember I was building my first house, and I was just, sort of talking about the, what a hassle it is and what I should choose and whatever. And Lauren just goes, as you get older, you find yourself being drawn to wood.
I never got that good of ones. He's like,
and then the
Gap
last
Girl
and then
sucks this week.
And then the last one is Cheryl, my wife, was pregnant with our second child. We knew it was a boy, and we were really, really struggling with names. And Lauren's kids are my kids, same ages, so we shared that and would talk about stuff. And I go, yeah, we're thinking. He goes, have you thought out names? And I go, yeah, we're thinking about this. We're thinking about this. He goes, I find the king's names work the best.
Yes. I like the king's names.
Here.
James, David,
James,
do you have a Lorneism?
Charlemagne, the god.
One of the classics that everyone probably has had at some point is him pouring a glass of water from a bottle and doing a really long, tall pour and say, never underestimate the value of water.
Oh, 100%. I've seen it.
Yeah.
That's a great one. That's
I
a
told
great
him
one.
I never thought to underestate it. Well, that didn't
Why
make
are
what
you
I said very
lowballing
interesting
water?
then. Please don't correct me when I'm doing my truisms.
No. You didn't misunderstand.
Oh, you've seen my Lorne Michaels starting an outboard motor?
No.
No. Marcy! Sorry, go ahead.
Wait,
Marcy to end it.
Marcy, have you, Dana, don't you do Lorne having REM or REM sleep? Is that you?
I don't know. Maybe that was
sounds
Bill
like
Hader. Bill Hader.
By the way, is it REM sleep or REM sleep? It's REM sleep.
I think it's REM sleep. Yes.
So, Lorne having REM sleep? I always heard this was your bit. I always give you credit whenever I do it.
Oh, I don't. I remember Bill Hader on one of Conan's last show did a really funny thing of Lorne falling asleep on and off on the flight, and when he would sort of come to consciousness, he would just say a celebrity's name, and he falls asleep.
Yes.
It's that, and then he would sort of wake up and go, Steve knew that I was.
That's what it was.
Right?
Lorne, Paul, Mick.
That was the brilliant Mr. Bill Hader's bit, and it was so fucking great. It's hard to come up with a new angle on the pantheon of Lorne.
David,
Lorne
would you
impressions.
fly out and do a few minutes of Gap Girls before they even start the show?
For the 50th. I asked Mike recently, I said, are we going to do Wayne and Garth at the 50th? And would they do a wide shot, and can they get it high up on the crane? Maybe a couple of fills. Rob,
Can we
you know
do
all
it
the
from
tricks.
Cleveland? Maybe Bezos would let us use his rocket to shoot it from.
It's cotton and Vaseline on a lens. It's
is.
an old Candy Bergen trick.
I think it's called a cheesecloth lens.
The thing is, I know, Rob, sometimes people say you're good looking, but I feel like two things. I'm overlooked for being good looking. They don't talk about it enough. And also,
you're very youthful.
I feel like
eternally youthful.
Youthful. He's 37. Christ's sake.
For Christ's sakes, nobody wears a trucker hat more aptly at 70 than Spade.
Let me tell you something. I hate hats and trucker hats. I'll tell you two secrets. I hate hats, but I hate my hair more. So the only thing good about looking stupid for the last 20 years is that my forehead isn't that trashed because there's no sunbeams on it.
That's right.
And the other thing is, I hate this mustache and whatever that is, but I'm worse without it. So it's really a...
Wait, why do you say you're worse without it?
I don't like it. And then...
Why do you not like
keep it?
Do you feel like you don't have a chin? You want more of a chin? You want less of a chin?
All of it is such a blank slate. I have no character in my face. It's just people pass me by and no one talks.
That's me. I have no voice. You have a voice that's recognizable. I have no voice and no face. Perfect for someone doing characters. I'm completely neutral. There's nothing here. But I realize now that I'm in my 60s, you guys are in your early 30s, my face started to recede into my skull. I mean, you lose volume. So then I had to start to wear glasses. It's like the Invisible Man and sort of a little bit of scruff. I'm just filling in a shadow. Otherwise, I would disappear in this Zoom we're using. I know,
and then
the
beard gets gray, and so you're like, now nothing. I'm nothing. I'm just disappearing.
I know. Why do I have to go white on the chin? Everyone goes snowy on the chin. I still have a lot mix up here, and I don't like that.
I like also, Dana, that you both of you have your hair dialed in, it works, and you are going to ride it all the way to the end.
Well, I may need a little help. I need some grafts, but
he looks like he could shoot St. Elmo's Fire reshoots today. That is the exact same hair. St. Elmo's Fudd. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I heard your hair was gray, and I'm like, I wish you would just do his gray hair so we could all trash him. But then I go, he'll fucking look better, and it'll backfire on me. So don't do that. And
I'm obsessed with men's hair. I could do a whole podcast on men's hair. Really, truly, I could.
Well, then can you discern the tricks and sprays and what I'm doing up here to hide the fact that my head is like a game of Risk? I have so much territory and only so many soldiers,
so many troops. You got to get the troops up front. You got to move. But
I'm all for grafting. They just said I needed someone to donate grafts for me. So I mentioned Rob Lowe, and they go, Rob Lowe? We'll call him.
Even his pubes. We'll take anything.
But let's go back to Rob Lowe and show business. The thing about Rob Lowe, if I may call you that,
you may,
is that so he's incredibly good looking and funny, which is a combo that's kind of rare, and that's how Mike and I got him to do Wayne's World, and we were thrilled when we were shocked that we could get Rob Lowe. and then Kurt Fuller was also great in that movie.
You had a funny, you had to play something a little different. So that could have gone wrong easily. When people say they want to be funny in movies, it's like, oh, I can be funny. It's like when a host comes in, Dana, that's always a kiss of death. They go, I'm really funny. And everyone in the room panics.
Yeah.
Because you don't really know what that means. And they're like, da. They go, I can do
this.
For
my friends at a party, I'm a gas.
So, what they ask you to do, it's like being in read-through or something. It's kind of hit and miss. You're like, oh, I can kind of play this. One time they gave me Horseshack and everyone was nervous. And then I go, Mr. Cotter. And they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Always go with a little bit of Lovitz. It's basically a 1947 like character actor.
And then Woody Allen, it goes on the read-through. But back to Wayne's World, like they're giving you something that isn't typically like, I think hilarious. It's just, it was up to you to take the writing and doing it a good way to make it work, and it worked.
Well, it was a great juxtaposition to Wayne and Garth, having Rob, and he did a lot of very dry, droll, dismissive lines. The way, the disdain that he had for the two idiots on the soundstage was great. And then your foil and Kirk Fuller, who was the kind of nervous wreck. So you guys were like a team. And every single line landed. Every single thing out of your guys' mouth was this great juxtaposition with us. So anyway, it was a very, very cool thing.
I loved doing it, and you guys were so funny. And my what I realized afterwards, speaking of Lorne, is that Lorne wrote a lot of my scenes, and particularly the scenes where I'm describing television.
Yes.
Which is one of my favorite things I say, or Colleen Camp is the idiot bimbo wife.
Love her.
She goes, where she goes, I watch a lot of television. I go, of course you do. You're very intelligent.
Yes, it was all those kinds of lines, which just had its own frequency throughout the entire movie. You were going against everything. We're all going, when's World Party on? And then you just had these little droll, dry lines. I remember when I did on the very first day, they were doing a Flowbee on Garth's head.
That's
it's
right.
the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
So I didn't know anything about anything. I was just kind of doing Garth. So I was sort of screaming. I don't know why, but with the hair thing going up. And I remember the late, great Bernie Brillstein pulled me aside. He was our manager at the time of all of us. And really sweet man. And he goes, you know, kid, in the film, you got to play kind of small, you know. I'd take it down a bit. You know, it's like, I go, it's a little late, Bernie.
Take it down about 1,000,000%.
Oh, so those are. I have such great memories of doing that show. Unbelievable.
Well, that was kind of, I think, that SNL, and then into that movie was another, like reading your Wikipedia page and your book, just all these twists and turns, and then that was a turn at that point. Like Rob Lowe can do comedy, you know. And
yeah,
then,
that was and I there are really two people to thank for that, and that is Lorne, and then Mike, who I will remember in the, you know, as you come in on the host comes in and meets with all the writers, and I remember him going in to meet everybody and sitting. The first time I saw Mike Myers, I'll never forget it because he had a Michael Myers poster behind him from Halloween.
Yeah, it was his whole thing.
Yeah, and he was like, "Do you want to do a Wayne's World sketch or Sprockets?" First time I hosted, and I remember thinking, "I hate that fucking Wayne's World thing. I want to do Sprockets."
That's ironic.
Sprockets.
So we did Sprockets. I didn't hate Wayne's World. I really didn't, but I love Sprockets. And so that kind of went from there. And then I was lucky to be surrounded by people like you guys. You know, I mean, you're only as funny as the people who are around you.
Well, that movie, which, because the second one we didn't quite get the. Well, it didn't achieve the same thing. It kind of made fun of itself. Like in the first movie, we were making fun of corporate commercialism, you know?
Yes.
And then the second movie, I walk into the lair. It was Wayne and Garth's little hangout area, and it was a $500,000 set. It was one of the most gigantic, gorgeous things I'd ever seen. I was like, what? But, you know, as you know, I've done so many movies and things, just when something works, you know, another one of Lorne's things, you never leave a hit. You know, that's another one, right?
Yep.
Which is true. But the Wayne's World one was 36 days, $12 million. It was kind of tossed off, not a lot of coverage, light on its feet, and then it just captured something. And the second one has great stuff in it too, so people love it. But the first one has a certain magic.
One of the most incredible things I've ever seen was going to a test screening of Wayne's World on the Paramount lot, invited audience. They didn't know what they were seeing, had no idea what it was, and they loved the movie from the beginning, from the very, very beginning. But when Bohemian Rhapsody came on in that car, and you guys started doing the head thing, the theater literally exploded. The people went berserk. I'd never seen anything like it.
And I have a theory about that.
Go ahead.
Because we did a Zoom with Josh Gad and you know, Queen and Brian May and everything, and we were talking about that. One was when I saw La La Land 3-4 years ago. It's underestimated, at least for me, remembering what syncopated movement with human beings, how potent it is.
Yes.
And so in Wayne's World, you started out in their groove, and then they go off on this operatic thing. So they leave the beat for so long. Nothing really matters. Goes way, way, way. And then it kicks in Bohemian Rhapsody, and we kick in with it.
Yes.
I mean, there's a reason when I see it now, too. It's like, man, that is potent.
Yeah.
That is so potent. And we didn't know it at the time.
No. Nobody, and I also love the story that that Lorne again kept pressuring Mike. Don't you think it's a little old, that song? And he goes, "What about Guns N' Roses or whatever the hit was?" And Mike and he was like, "No, this is what the song is."
Well, Mike was brilliant. That's part of his gift. Is he can pick up things and go, wow. And he really wanted that thing. We were going to get out of the car, do a whole dance around these steps and everything, you know?
Really?
Yeah, we were going to do a whole big thing, but budget and time. But for me personally, on a very minor note, when Garth does his dance for the Dream Girl and he does Foxy Lady.
Yeah.
I was doing What's New Pussycat, but then Lauren said, Steve is doing it in Father of the Bride. You might look for something else. So then we came up with the Hendrix one, which worked out great.
And that was Kim Basinger, or who was that?
That was no. Kim Basinger was in number 2. That was Donna Dixon.
Okay.
Who's married to Dan Aykroyd.
That in
I didn't see either movie, but okay.
I saw Tommy Boy.
Wait,
I got a question for Rob.
Okay, one last thing, Dana. I like that you give Freddie Mercury a lisp that he doesn't have. Nothing really matters.
Nothing really. Did I give him a lisp?
You really give him a lisp. I mean, listen, the guy was not the most macho guy to begin with, but you made him super fey.
Well, in that movie, for trivia people, I did not have my lyric memorized. I didn't know we were going to go that long. And so at one point, Garth is just moving his mouth, but not really singing the words. Just going like that.
Here's a question for Rob. Rob, you have a career of a lot of movies. It's the dumbest setup. You were in Wayne's World, Tommy Boy, and Austin Powers. What do people know you from most on the street out of those 3? Good one.
What are the 3 choices?
Tommy Boy, Wayne's World, and Austin Powers.
100% Tommy Boy.
Wow.
Well, I'll tell you what is weird.
Nice.
Yeah. What's weird is in the Lorne article. This is Kennedy Center, Lorne Michaels, 50 years, Washington Post. They give 3 movie credits. The first one is Tommy Boy.
Ooh, what else? Wayne's World.
Huh. Wow.
I don't know why that is. I think because Wayne's World is so Wayne's World is it's you and Mike. That's Wayne's World. Mm-hmm. That's literally Wayne's World. I think Tommy Boy, when people think of it, they think of, the 3, you and Farley and me.
I think it started with
an ensemble, yeah.
And it's more, those guys had written Wayne's World, and maybe it's because Lorne said to Bonnie and Terry Turner, why don't you write a movie about how Spade and Farley are around the office? And then, because, as we've said, that's backing your way into a greenlit movie instead of saying, hey, let's go pitch a movie about brake pads in Ohio. It's not like the funnest idea for a movie, so that would have gotten passed on. So going in it with just saying, do it about these guys, it happens to be about that, but that was never the focus, really.
Yeah, and I remember a version, not to make it about me, but I will.
Please.
Playing tennis with Lorne and Bernie, and I think Lovitz. And Lorne's like, I have an idea Paramount's working on. I don't know really, but it's you and Chris's brothers. And I was like, what? And so it was like a twins, like an Arnold DeVito.
That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
But that was all it was. That was all, and that was 6 months. And then Tommy Boy was written, so there was a little of that in there too.
Well, you did a good job, and Tommy Boy was a really fun shoot. But when we were doing it, and Bo Derek was your mom, who's a sweetheart.
You know that great story, right? We're like, we're going to get Bo Derek. We're going to get Bo Derek. And she's 10, and she shows up with like Annie Lennox's hair. She cut all her hair off.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God! I'm trying to.
Did she have a wig?
She had her hair shorter than mine right now. She looked like it was. She literally looked like Annie Lennox.
That's what general meetings are for.
That's why you see your actors before you hire them. And we were not happy. And John Derek didn't want her going back to be a big movie star again, and said to her, I think you'd really look great with all your beautiful hair cut off. And she did it.
She was stunning. What happened in the movie? Didn't she have short hair in the movie?
Yeah, by the way, she still looks great. There's nothing wrong, but like Bo, listen, but by the way, Bo's never, ever had short hair other than that 4-month period where she shot that movie.
She hustled to grow it out. Yeah.
She hustled to grow it back to hair again. We have reoccurring themes here, and I like it.
Well, what did you think about Kevin Costner walking on the set for the movie The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston with the Steve McQueen kind of almost crew cut, which made Mick Jackson crazy? But it worked.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Hair. I didn't know that, but that's a great move.
Best hair in a movie star, we're not including Rob, in the last 30, 40 years. Best hair. I have a guy in mind.
Shit, that's tough.
Well, I'm going to go probably, I don't know if you'll include him in the last 30 years, but it's for sure got to be Redford.
Oh yeah, that's cool hair.
Yeah, I was thinking Richard Gere more because of the way he flips it and he makes it a thing. But
I've been watching American Gigolo. It's been on American whatever the AMC, whatever the hell it is. And you know, I'm shooting my show and I'm in my trailer every 5 seconds, and that's on, and it is American Gigolo is amazing to watch.
I watched it within the last year. Yeah, it's just a great movie, and he's a real.
That was right around the pocket of Officer and a Gentleman, like right when he's fucking crushing.
Do you know? How do you feel about Robert Redford? Because I have this sort of theory about him that he is arguably, if you take it by a movie star in who was in the most great movies in film history since the talkies, since the 30s. I always pick Redford because I keep coming back around to, and people never guess Redford at a dinner party. They go all these classics, Brando and Nicholson, whatever.
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant was amazing, but when you think of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and 3 Days of the Condor and The Way We Were, and The Sting, The Natural, All the President's Men, there's just a period of time, and of course he directed Ordinary People. So anyway, that's my theory about Redford. Just wanted to throw that in for you film fans.
I could not agree with you more. I mean, just those that you tossed off there are ridiculous. There's some
3 Days of the Condor is just
3 Days of the Condor is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I saw it when I was too young. I didn't understand it.
You should watch it tonight.
Rob, were you? First of all, how many times have you hosted, and how scary is it walking out for the monologue?
I've hosted 3 times, and
can we talk about the first one first? I mean, because that would be the biggest fear, I think, right?
Yeah.
And what was your monologue about?
The monologue was, so I kind of got gypped out of the greatest thing that can happen to you on SNL, which is, you know, it's like being shot out of a cannon. Like when they say Rob Lowe, and the orchestra's going crazy, the audience is going crazy.
So loud in there.
It's so loud and it's electric. And I didn't have that because we had my monologue was predicated on the audience hating me. From the minute
the joke.
The joke from the minute I walked out, the joke. They were told, "Do not clap." To come out, Rob needs to come out to crickets.
How do I not remember that?
So I didn't ever get that until you know the second and third time I did. But doing the show is, I've always said I would have loved to have been on that show. It would have been a dream. It would have been a dream to me to do what you guys did. A dream, an absolute dream. I grew up watching that show. I would have been fucking ecstatic to have had that been my career, being on that show.
I think it was Al Franken that had just observed after you hosted or something. You know, it'd be really nice to have like a really good looking cast member, just as a person to put in different ways along with character work. But yeah, he told Mike and I that. When Mike and I were like, what? What about us? So you did Arsenio Beckman, which was just looking up that episode. It's so fucking funny.
Oh my God. I couldn't even, about that.
And the way you played it, everything about it. I know it was Robert Smigel, is one of our best writers of our generation. Yep. Maybe Odenkirk was in there too a little bit, but that is supernaturally funny, and it's on YouTube. It's Rob playing Arsenio Hall, but it really is just to the amped up environment of all talk shows and the sycophantish, patronizing laughter and it's so funny. It's called Arsenio Beckman with Rob Lowe.
That's
on
not
YouTube.
When the crowd goes crazy, is it?
Well, I also like it's also the
everything he does, they go nuts.
The deterioration of any ability to ask a cogent question. My favorite thing about that was, I think my guest was Linda Blair of all people.
Yes.
and Smigel wrote that my very first question was literally, it was like, so I heard someone saying something about you doing something.
Yeah.
Or somebody
and the crowd's
else
laughing their ass off.
Something. What's that all about? Like, not a question at all.
No, it's just like, what's up? And then the crowd, they had a really good shot of the bleachers and just people going insane.
Well, we had actual dummies.
Each other up in the air.
And actual
we had dummies that were
going,
fucking
and then
hilarious.
in the table read, that people were supposed to eventually be on fire. but we couldn't figure out how to do that.
Because then later on, I got to do Carcenio. So there was a lot of Arsenio.
There was Enios. Well, you know what it was is Lorne had a thing where he didn't want to go after certain people. So by adding the Enio, it was like, well, that wasn't Arsenio Hall Rob was going.
It was Arsenio Beckman. Yeah.
That's exactly why it was, because it was written as Arsenio Hall. And Lorne changed it to Arsenio Beckman.
It's your first time doing SNL. You're on a live sound stage. You're out there, and it's crushing. And knowing your journey to there, and all the stuff in movies and the Outsider story, everything. I mean, you must have been just feeling incredible. I mean, right?
I was.
It's pumped. Such a rush. We've been doing live stand-up,
and everyone's yelling. Must have been a rush to be in a good sketch that works. It's not always the case. It's so fun.
With all possible humility, I will say I am super proud of the three SNLs I did. They are all super good. There are memorable, iconic moments from each one of them. Not some of them I'm not involved with. We have Al Gore going lockbox. is in one of it. So
it's in a lockbox.
And I did. Did I tell you about the time that I went up though? I forgot. There are cue cards there, so it's hard to fuck up. But I was doing, remember Mace, Phil Hartman's character?
Yeah, Mace. Yeah. I'm a bad apple rotten to the core.
I'm a bad apple and rotten to the core.
Yeah.
I was doing a Mace sketch with Phil, and it all built to a joke, and I fucked up. I fucked it up somehow, and we had to ad lib our way. Like fucked up so badly that you could see the cue cards, you could see Lorne and like everybody, and you can the look in Phil's eyes. It was over. There was no way to end the sketch. There was no way to end the sketch live.
Did you go ahead in the sketch?
You jumped the card or something?
Did you jump the card in a way?
No, I reversed. It was the kind of thing. He had a punchline that was predicated on me saying I can't do something. And I said, I can do something. So now he literally can't say his line now.
So the premise is completely,
So I fucked up the premise of the punchline. And I ad-libbed a punchline, and it got a laugh when we got out of there. And I actually think that's the moment, actually, where Lorne was like, I want to do more stuff with him, because he came backstage and was, well, there he is, Houdini.
Well, there he is.
My God. There's no one funnier than Lorne in a way. I mean, that's why we're all doing Lorne all these years. There's no one who.
By the way, Lorne is funny. We always joke about him. I want people listening to go, we fucking laugh at Lorne. There's a reason he runs the show. He says funny fucking shit at dinner. And
really funny.
And you go, fuck, I forgot. This guy is so funny.
Okay, this is my last Lorne one. By the way, you can cut all these out if you don't like them. But
we love them.
This is the best. So apparently he was being interviewed by somebody, and days, following Lorne around. And the guy says, so I have to notice that you have a lot of very famous, important people in your life. Are there any just regular people in your world? And Lorne goes, well, I know you.
So good. Lorne, this one I've said before, I think we've on this fledgling podcast, but see what you think of it, being someone who came from humble background and all that, normal, which I feel is our gift. And then with our children, they have celebrity and money at whatever level it is. And so Lorne said, regards this. He goes, you and I were raised in the wilderness and we became civilized. Our kids are raised civilized and we expect them to go out into the wilderness. Very Lorne.
It's very brilliant though.
Yeah, but it is very brilliant in a very simple way. If it's not exactly the way you might use those words, but yeah, civilized.
What you need to remember about Dana is he grew up with mismatching furniture.
Dana and people from Montana.
I've said this before, but I still think it's worth telling you because you'll laugh. Lorne's under the bleachers during the show. He's got the monitor, right? He's watching and critiquing the show. Maybe it's the dress show. I'm out there doing Bush or Churchley. I'm just vamping it up. And Lorne said, he's a fucking show pony.
He's a fucking show pony.
Which I love that. See, everything we said about Lorne, we love Lorne. And so, we've never met anyone like Lorne who says stuff like that.
The worst is, go ahead.
Robbie. There was a moment where he was, by the way, just about what's about to come out of my mouth makes me laugh. He and I were sitting in my jacuzzi, and he was doing that thing where he eats his little finger and turns. Do you think Mike based Dr. Evil on me? And he's literally doing the finger thing in his mouth as he's saying it. And I was like, no.
He would bite his nails, especially on Wednesday when we're trying to pick the show. And that's that night, by the way, and this is all SNL related stuff. So long story short, Rob and I end up having dinner with Lorne at an Italian restaurant in Santa Monica with two of Lorne's assistants. So two things are funny. One was that this was the first time I actually did my Lorne for Lorne, and then Rob threw in his Lorne. And yours was a very funny thing. You said, Jan's light in the show. Or was it one of those?
Yes.
But I started doing Lorne for Lorne, and he didn't take offense to it because it was just him on the Wednesdays being frustrated, looking at the board and not liking the cards or the sketches. I still have no fucking first act. And that, for me, was my into Lorne in 1986.
That's a real statement, though. It's not even like a parody.
Yeah. And then I got tapped out, which I've talked about in this show a little while ago about John Travolta. I'm doing him on stage in Denver as a comedian, and then the guy you're doing is sneaking up behind you, but you don't know it. So if someone taps your shoulder, you're thinking you're killing. I'm going, I don't know, Mr. Carter, and it's like that. And I look up and it's John Travolta. But the same thing happened that night, and you saw it. So Lorne asked me to do the Paul McCartney story of staying at Lorne's house before I was on SNL for a month for his assistant. So I'm really doing Paul. I'm going into it. Oh, doing this. We got to do it. You know what you're doing. Could do all that. And then Lorne looks up and he's going, could be. And I didn't know what it meant in time. And I got the tap. And I looked up, and it was Paul McCartney. And I was running the full, and I didn't know whether he'd heard me. And so I was kind of nervous. So I said, and I hadn't seen him in a while. I said, "You're holding up." And then that became a running thing. He says, "I'm holding up."
I'll never forget.
What, from your point,
I'll never forget that Paul McCartney said. So I can't do a Paul McCartney. In fact, my Paul McCartney makes him sound like he's Indian, like he's from Bombay.
I'll teach you how to do it, but go ahead, try it.
I was like,
just everything's a question.
He's like, "Well, what are you guys doing here?" That's not bad. It's okay.
That's not. What are you doing here?
What are you guys doing here?
What are you doing here? He says, "What are you doing here?" And you said, Lorne said, we just did the 25th anniversary screening of Wayne's World, and Paul McCartney said, and I will never forget it as long as I live. He said, "Oh, Wayne's World. Oh, that's a classic."
Wow. That's
I'll never forget as long as I live.
Take it and run.
It's a classic, because they were stumble bumpers. And one guy was driving the car. One guy was just hanging out singing, And they go to the donut shop. They're like, "Could we get a donut?" But they called it a cruller.
He had a binkity boop.
And, in Liverpool, it was called a bungay. If you had pastry. It was a boonganger. And they call it a cruller. And other people call it a donut. I don't know. I'm not sure who I am. But anyway,
have you guys watched the Beatles? I've just, last night was watching the Beatles documentary. It is mind-altering.
I'm too in love with them.
I watched it immediately over 3 days. I watched all 7 hours, and I was watching the second episode again last night. Is it fascinating.
Apple TV or Paramount Plus or Discovery Minus?
Disney Plus. You can go buy a month for $1.99 and then cancel your subscription.
I didn't know they're going to jack me
tight.
For $1.99.
It is absolutely unbelievable.
God damn, I love them. And if you love them so much, if you
love them, you're going to, honestly, if you even like the Beatles, you're going to have to be like resuscitated.
Well, it makes people remember, like, this is the real shit. Like, this is the fucking unbelievable shit of when you got a band that's unreal and for a chunk of time that stays forever. And you're like,
well, what it illustrates, and someone said this in a review, is that it marvelously represents the minutia and boredom of the creative process. that they just start going into cover songs. They're doing everything they can not to work on the song, and then they work on it again, then they go away, they come back. It goes on for hours. I mean, it is just an insight into
some of those songs,
how hard they work.
Change-ups in them where you're listening. I don't even know much about music, and I'm like, they're going from that to that. Is that even legal? Like things that they were doing back then, and you must, if you were anyone back then, you must have been so floored going, am I in the same business as these guys? Because
that's the thing. You look at, like, I want to know who's doing that now. Who's out there selling
Cardi B?
Who's doing that? Who?
It's a one-off. It's a linchpin. The 60s were a linchpin decade for the 20th century, and then they rode that wave. They were a teen idol band who then became the most experimental band, and then Let It Be was done in 3 weeks in January '69. By the end of October, they finished the White Album. They took 8 weeks off. Then they're in there. Third week of February, they're doing Abbey Road. I mean, no one worked like that. But I do think there was a chemistry between Lennon and McCartney that's just supernatural, obviously. I mean, you can't duplicate
One Direction, like they throw them together with Simon Cowell, like they're a teeny bopper band. And then suddenly they're the best, most intricately clever, creative band in the world. And you go, it seems like they almost stumbled into it by just going, let's get a band together. And they just happen to get these geniuses together.
It's funny when I don't watch anything anymore because I'm so much time working, which is great. And there's not a move or a beat that I have not seen or played myself at this point. And so unless it's done spectacularly or surprisingly, it makes me want to stop watching.
And you're talking about acting, comedy,
comedy, story,
music,
playing its ability. You name it. Name a scenario. Name it. I've played it. Particularly because now I'm on like an adventure show. So literally, person in a drain, seen it. Somebody wants to get divorced, seen it. Somebody gets poisoned table, done it. I mean, literally, there's not, honestly.
My rattlesnake did it.
It's like, and you see the moves 10 moves ahead. So, and it's fine. It's just, I know where all the seams are, and it's fine. It's what I do. So, but when I do see something on television or in the movies that reminds me of the power of it, I literally start to cry. Because it reminds me of what this is and can be and what it means. And that's the way I felt about the Beatles documentary.
Yeah, it's really well said. I feel the same way. My wife says, you're possessed by them. I go, I know, but it's fun. And, I rode the wave. Like I was 9 years old when they wanted Ed Sullivan. I'd been in a band with my younger brother. We had a clothes hamper with a crayon. We painted we drew were the surfers. He had a 1-string guitar. He could play Louie Louie. I had drumsticks, which I stole from Mickey Hart's store, from the Grateful Dead at age 9. And then we would play. And then when the Beatles came on, we changed it to the Beatles. And then we played for that. So I had older brothers as well. So I was getting all the albums in real time. And so that kind of imprinted it. And then you're like, oh, well, the Beatles, I like them because I'm just of that generation. But then you meet people who are 20 or 30. I mean, Conan O'Brien, who's 10 years older than me, and J.J. Abrams. I mean, we have kind of a little email club where we send each other Beatle clips. We'll put you in there, Rob.
Please,
just things that we find, and they're just possessed by them. And just you meet them, and it's just they're a one-off. I mean,
what's your favorite? What's your favorite? I mean, and then you can cut all this out if you want. What's your favorite moment? What was the moment where you went, holy fucking shit?
When they hid the camera in the flower pot, and Paul and John are having a heart-to-heart about the last 6 years. I mean, they were such shooting stars. You were always the boss, Well, I had problems with you, too. I wanted to change the arrangement, but I was afraid. And I didn't follow me on what I wanted to do. I had to rely on George to tell you. Well, I always thought that I was one driving it. It's just that intimacy of the two greatest songwriters of the 20th century and the way they talk to each other, the respect and the angst of that conversation just moves me like
Same.
No other lover.
Same.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I have a question for Rob while you're scribbling. Rob, I saw trivia on you, and it said you were one of the hijackers of 9/11. That's not true, is it?
How great! That's such a great bit.
Do you stay in touch with those people? The other hijackers?
I just want to say this to Rob. Tom Cruise in space. Go.
Oh, he's very intense.
He's going to go do a film on the space station.
You know what? He's also riding on the outside of the rocket going up to the moon.
Dude, he's the man. Dude,
for Mission Impossible.
Dude, he's the man. He's unbelievable. He's the greatest.
I love him.
He's the last great movie star, and
he will risk his life.
He takes it seriously. That's
you got to give cred to that. I mean, my God,
if you saw what I complain about on movies and what Tom Cruise,
no one what Rob?
No one takes it more serious than Tom. Really, I mean, he makes Daniel Day-Lewis look like a backslider,
like
he's in Dickie Roberts,
not committed to his scene at all.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a competition problem. It's not that I say that everyone should fail. Oh, this is my American accent.
I have a competition.
I'm going to talk like this.
HW. Go ahead. So, listen, Rob, you worked with Tom on which movie? Outsiders?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And was he like that then?
He was super like that then. I mean, look, we were. I was
like that.
I was.
Well, it's in the book. I mean, it's like it's a huge story. The Outsiders, and Tom Cruise really pops off the pages to what he would have been like as a young man. The intensity was there, right?
Well, and there's stuff that I didn't put in the book. There's a lot of stuff I didn't put in the book.
Good.
And as I've gotten older, and I've seen how the two books that I wrote were received happily in exactly the way I'd hoped that they would be, I've become a little more comfortable putting.
You mean telling a story about someone?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
I like the way you just cut to the chase. So I go to visit Tom on the set of Risky Business. And I'm about to do this movie called Class in Chicago. So I go like a week early so I can hang out with Tom. And I remember taking a cab to the set, and it was like I had to write it was like so 1980s. It's a cab. I'm writing the directions down. Lakeshore Drive. It's a second exit off the, and I get there and it's the scene where he's jumping on the hood of the Porsche to try to stop it from going into Lake Michigan. And I walk on the set and they're doing the scene, and I'm not interrupting, obviously they're doing the scene. I'm waiting for it to be over. Tom's super intense. I mean, he's trying to, that scene, he's like, stop, like it's super intense. And Tom is super intense. So, and then finally it's over and he comes over to me, he goes, hey man, how you doing? I'm like, hey, so what, when you're done, let's go grab a bite. And he's like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, see, look, I know you, but my character doesn't know you.
Right. That's true.
And so we didn't do anything because Joel from Risky Business did not know me.
Did not know Rob Lowe.
Was he one of those guys who was called by his character's name on the set?
My guess is that was a phase. And by the way, that was a phase everybody was toying
Sean
with.
Penn did that for a while.
Oh, dude, I picked up the phone one time at Emilio's house, and it was like, hello, is Emilio there? And I was like, Sean? And he was like, why is Emilio there? I was like,
is that from I Am Sam?
And he was doing his voice from that Louis Malle movie he did, Crackers.
Oh, boy.
He played like a Cajun in Crackers.
Oh, okay.
And he wouldn't give up the voice. And even when I said, Sean, is that you? He was like, he was doing the thing. So like a lot of people were trying to do that kind of thing at that point. I by the way, if you need and want to do that, that's great. And a lot of great actors do. But I've also worked with really great actors who are perfectly happy to be talking about what they're going to have for dinner. And they put the slate in front of their face and go, action. And they're transcendent. And then they go cut and they go back to talking about dinner.
I don't get enough money to stay as Dickie Roberts all night.
By the way, this would go back to Saturday Night Live a little bit, but
it's funny.
Jennifer, who does hair and makeup for Saturday Night Live now, she's out in Hollywood, just a friend of mine. She said there's a lot of actors now and a lot of call for actors after Gary Oldman's Oscar for Churchill for prosthetics. Mm-hmm. And because that, as you know, you put a nose, you put a thing, suddenly you get an Oscar. Or the critics just love it. They used to say that about me. You didn't look anything like a character. I was under attack. So on SNL, was that your first experience? Did you ever get a kind of a look in your hosting where you just change?
When I can wear prosthetics, it's my favorite thing in the world. When I did Behind the Candelabra, it was all huge.
Oh, wow.
Character makeup.
That was cool.
And it was like, it's so freeing.
I think
it's freeing for anybody, but it's super freeing for somebody who, usually plays like romantic leading man parts. It's so I love it.
Can you? But you walk around like that too, and when you're not in any danger of anyone even knowing who you are.
Well, what's really interesting is I got to see how literally the other half lives. Where I was doing this thing where with our pal Kaylee Cuoco, I was playing Drew Peterson, the big fat cop from Chicago who killed like three of his wives. Handlebar, walrus, mustache, bag. Mm-hmm. I look like Bert Lahr from Cowardly Lion.
Bert Lahr.
And I went out to dinner. Went out to lunch at a proper restaurant on my break. And when I walked out, and I'm in my cop uniform, and there's no way anybody knows I look like a big, overweight, fat, middle-aged cop.
Yeah.
And when I walk out, the people go, "Come back soon," and they didn't mean it. And I went, "Oh,
so that's what
this is what it's like."
Oh,
they were just not into you as they thought because you were a cop, or they just thought you were
ageism or fatism.
They're just like it's like regular people because it's just fucking crazy.
Rather than Mr. Lowe, please come back.
Yeah, it wasn't like or it was just like yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah, I've done that when they don't know me. It's the fucking worst thing in the world. They treat me like a normal person.
I can't stand it.
It's horrifying.
It is.
Rob,
I walk out without paying for stuff and they go, the money. I go, this guy doesn't know me. He doesn't know I don't pay for stuff.
I was on a cell phone the other day and distracted talking to my sister-in-law getting gas and I drove off and the handle was still in the thing. So I stopped. I went back. There was no gas flowing. The guy comes out. "What are you doing? You have to take it out. You can't drive away with it." He's telling me. And I'm like, well, I did. I forgot. You can't do that. You have to put it. But they says, "We can put it back on." And the guy was actually from Des Moines. He just had this weird accent.
He had an accent?
I can't do any accents anymore.
You sounded like Arnold. I thought Arnold Schwarzenegger came out.
Let me tell you something about Rob Lowe. You take the good looks and the funniness, the intelligence. He's an author, and these things. You put it together. You put all these things and all these people. You put the prosthetics on them. You give them a part they can really get into. And then they get the Oscar on the Oscar night. Sorry.
I introduced Arnold to Sean Penn. They'd never met. It was right after Sean won the Oscar.
Could I do Arnold meeting Sean Penn?
Wait,
no, go ahead.
Because I gotta tell you what Arnold said.
I want to hear this.
So we were at a table and Sean was at a table. We came over and Sean wanted to hit Arnold up on some political issue he was upset about, and Arnold was the governor at the time.
Oh yeah,
and Sean was super earnest as his wont about it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want you to be on the, I really respect you. And I don't want you to be on the wrong side of history, he says to Arnold.
Oh, Jesus.
And I goes, yeah. And Arnold goes, yes. Let me ask you something. In Milk, there's that amazing scene where you come out and they're standing there and you've won the election and you have your moment in the sun and you put your hands up like this. Not like this. Like this. And he does like the real feminine gesture that Milk did because he looks so feminine and like a woman. And I thought only he could do that. Sean was
meaning Harvey Milk or Sean Penn?
Sean Penn. So it's like he was going like, is this guy fucking with me or not? It was super, super funny.
The thing about Arnold, his street smarts, if you call him that, just because of his accent and everything, is unparalleled. The guy is, and he'll say such simple stuff. Before every movie, I get everybody in the room and I say, first of all, let's take away all the magical facts and the monsters, the scary things, the guns and all the things. We take them out of the room and we see if the story will work.
I studied it.
Smart.
Work with the weird R in it. Work.
I just like anyone who says, "Let me tell you something," right before they talk to you. Let me tell you something. Such a great precursor.
Hear me now, believe me later. All right, I have to go. So, Rob, listen, I want to summarize Dana, and I'm going to show you. I go.
Where are you going?
I have to clear up. Rob was not one of the hijackers. He was on a test flight or something.
I like the way I let that. Did you notice the way I let that go out into the ether?
You let it slide. You were like,
but I was on a test flight with the hijackers. I was.
That's right, and you do, and you don't stay in contact with them. On many of them, I've heard. So
we've grown apart. It's not like it's just we've just grown apart.
And you're like, and it wasn't even that. It's just later they said something to me I didn't like. Okay, so Rob was great. Dana was great. Spade sort of chimed in. There's a lot of fun SNL. Thank you, Rob. You're always a fucking blast to talk to.
Bye, boys. Love you.
This has been a podcast presentation of Cadence 13. Please listen, then rate, review, and follow all episodes. Available now for free wherever you get your podcast.
No joke, folks. Fly on the Wall has been a presentation of Cadence 13. Executive produced by Dana Carvey and David Spade, Chris Corcoran of Cadence 13, and Charlie Finan of Brillstein Entertainment. Production and engineering led by Greg Holtzman, Richard Cook, Serena Reagan, and Chris Basil of Cadence 13.